Hi, I'm Lauren and welcome back to my craft room. I'm super excited. It's the latest release from Whimsy Stamps and I am going to show you a fun shaker card I put together. So here is my fun shaker card. It says big hugs and it has two little baby sea creatures, an octopus and a jellyfish who of course want to give you a big hug. And I'm also using some of the new Slimline paper under the sea to create the backs of my shakers. So I hope you enjoy this tutorial and you check out all of the brand new Whimsy Stamps products using my links down below. Here are the supplies we're going to be using: the brand new Wonky Window 4, Big Hugs word dies, our Under the Sea Slimline paper, baby sea creatures, and this fish tank Sprinkletz embellishment pack. I decided to go with a more neon theme, so I cut out my Wonky window out of some kind of neon purple paper and the insides of the window with the more neon colored slimline paper. I also have my card base, my acetate, and I'm getting all of my adhesives ready. I die cut two of the windows just to help me with placement of my stitched insides. So I am using some wet glue to glue down my first Wonky window. I absolutely love these dies for shakers. I'm going to glue that to my card base. It is like a cover plate size. It cuts exactly an A2 die cut piece. And then I'm going to glue on the inside pieces. So I'm adding some wet adhesive to the back and then puzzle piece fitting them inside of my window. Now one of my pieces, it was a little too short for the die because it was a slimline paper. So there is a little white gap, but that's okay. I'm going to cover it with some of my end details. And now for the second Wonky window, I made sure that it was the correct way. I am going to put some double-sided 1/8 of an inch sticky tape behind all of the cardstock pieces, peel off all of that release paper, and then I'm going to align my acetate sheet behind that. So I'm being very careful. This acetate sheet is cut also to A2 size, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I get that layered on, and I'm just going to make sure it has good adhesion. And now I can layer on some foam. Now my pieces are pretty thin. I'm not having any like really thick shaker bits in my shaker card today, so I'm not using my special super thick foam. I'm just using some regular foam from scrapbook.com, and I have it on a roll that's about 1/4 of an inch wide. So I cut it in half, and that's when I realized, why am I doing this? I have 1/8 of an inch strips of foam, so I went ahead and pulled that out, and now I'm going to finish putting foam all over my window die, and that is going to attach to my acetate piece. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I don't have any openings. These fish clay bits here are pretty large. They're not going to fall out, but I am going to put some clear seed beads in with them, and those are pretty tiny. So once I'm done, I'm going to pull up all the release tape from my foam so it'll be easy to attach once I'm done putting my little embellishments inside. This is a brand new pack, so I'm opening it up, and I absolutely love how bright and fun these fish are. I think they go so well with this slimline paper. So I put plenty of fish in because there's nothing else that's going inside, and on the front that will take up a lot of space, so plenty of area for fish to shine. And I'm also putting in some clear beads from my stash just to help with the movement of all these clay pieces. Once I'm happy and there's no more pieces stuck to my foam, I am going to align my top piece and go ahead and glue that on, and now my shaker is complete. I'm just making sure there's good adhesion, and of course we have to give it a good shake, make sure things are moving, nothing's falling out, and it looks good. So we're going to move on to the next step. I have die cut out big hugs out of some white cardstock and some neon orange cardstock, again still going with that neon color. And I really like the orange popping up behind the white cardstock, so I am adding some wet glue behind one of my die cuts here, the word big, and I'm going to kind of create a little bit of a drop shadow with the orange. So I'm layering it to the bottom right of my white, giving the orange a little bit of a shadow look behind my sentiment. And I'm going to repeat that for all the pieces, including my little heart over the eye. And now I'm going to work on placing it on my card base. Now I thought about trying to use this to cover that weird white spot, but I know that one of my little characters I'm going to color later will fit there fine, and I'm not going to worry about it right now. So I like the word big hugs, how it's laid out here. So I am going to get my wet glue and I'm going to start adhering them down. So I'm just outlining the letter, placing it onto my acetate frame, and I'm going to use my Misty for a few minutes here. I know it seems really fast because I skipped it, but it was for a couple minutes there to make sure that there was enough pressure on my word die so it would stay in place. So while I was doing that, I cut out a piece of watercolor paper, got out my 2 stamps that I'm going to be using, and my embossing tools. So I have my watercolor paper in my Misty, I have my octopus and my jellyfish. I'm going to use a little embossing buddy to make sure that I have removed any static and to help the powder stick to only the ink once I've stamped it. I'm using VersaFine Onyx black ink. I went with black because that was the background color of my Slimline paper. It's stamped once and looks great, so now I'm going to add my clear embossing powder as I'm going to be doing some watercoloring, and I absolutely love embossing my images when I watercolor because it helps me stay a lot more in the lines. So I'm heating up those images and melting down that clear embossing powder, and I don't usually show it, but I thought it was pretty short and fun, so there I am embossing. And now I'm going to bring out my Zig watercolor markers, and I brought out my fish to help me pick out some colors, but then I thought I'll just use my card since there's, you know, more colors to choose from. I thought it would be fun to make my jellyfish pink. I don't know why I always think of pink jellyfish, but it's usually the color I color my jellyfish, pink or purple. And I am just adding some color to where there would be shadow, and then using my blender pen to just kind of smooth that color out. The darkest parts will still look like a shadow on my character or my little critter here, so I don't need to add any more color. I'm going to do the same thing on my octopus. I'm just putting in ink where it would be the darkest part or the shadow that would be on my creature, and then I'm going to use my blender pen, which I've cleaned, so there's no more pink residue, to blend that color out into the open area. And there you go, you can see his face stays kind of light colored, and then the rest of the body where I had the ink is darker like a shadow. Once it's dry, I'm just going to use my paper snips here to fussy cut these little guys out, and then once that's done, I'm going to bring out my self-healing mat, it's really old, and a retractable knife. And there's one spot on the jellyfish that's kind of a larger area, so I thought I would get in there and kind of die cut that area out as well, just so it had more consistency and another see-through point to see my shaker. Even though it is kind of tiny, I think adding small details like that really helped make the card. So now I'm going to play with the layout and kind of figure out how I want my characters to go. I like them around the big. That's what I was originally thinking when I glued my letters down. So once I have them placed how I like them, I'm going to get out my wet glue and adhere them down. My little jellyfish here is going to cover that weird wonky white spot, and there you go. Now you'll never know that my paper was a little too small for the die. I'm going to add glue to my octopus as well and place that down. I like him kind of covering the top of the H there. Looks like maybe he's sitting on it and holding up the B. And now that that's done, I am going to make sure my shaker card looks great. I absolutely love how it's turning out, but I do want to snip off the edges of my critters because this will probably go into an envelope and in the mail. So I don't want any extra pieces that will get bent or tear. So I'm just snipping off anything that hangs off the edge. And there is my final card. I absolutely love making shaker cards. I think those little fish are too cute. I hope you enjoyed this card tutorial. If you did, please click that like button, and if you're new here, I hope I've inspired you to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.